Hi guys, I'm Rob from iTech Pickers, and tonight this is going to be an update to the video that I made 2 days ago about China's coronavirus. 2 days ago, the regime was talking about 4,500 people infected and a little bit less than 100 deaths. And now we are Wednesday night, and we're talking about possibly 7,500 people infected, and those are the official numbers from the Chinese regime, and 170 people dead. As you can see, if you look at the calculation, uh, the spread of this virus, uh, there's an increase of 40% every 24 hours, and that's exponentially. So now that they're talking about 7,500 dead, we're probably looking we will probably be looking at 10,000 people infected by Friday, and possibly about 300 people dead, and this is going to go up from there. And the scary thing is that most experts say that to make a vaccine and a cure for this disease, it's going to take about 3 months. And then the best in the best case scenario, some experts came up with the idea that they could make a vaccine within 30 days, but that's like wishful thinking. But even if they were to make a vaccine in 30 days, if you have a growth rate of infection similar as the one that we have now, with the numbers that are being given to us by the regime in China, the 40% increase, exponential increase every day, we are looking at something like 115 million people infected with the virus by day 30, and about 4 or 5 million people dead already. So this is the big news. This is this is something that anyone on Earth should be worried about. And here I'm here in Canada, and I look at our mainstream news, and the mainstream news in the U.S., and they're pretty much like putting the news of the coronavirus at the very bottom. People are concerned about stuff like the Trump impeachment trial, which is like a circus. And even if a president really they had any motive to impeach a president, it just is not as important than what's happening in China right now. So they're talking about the Trump impeachment circus. They're talking about the death of Kobe Bryant, and yes, of course, he was a very well-known basketball player, um, and he died. But they could have said, "Well, okay, the guy's dead. That's it." We know that he's dead, and you don't have to talk about it all day. Uh, because what's happening in China is just so much more concerning and more important. We're talking about, if we look at the numbers that we have since the beginning of the infection and the contagion of this virus, this is going to be worse than the Spanish flu, or maybe just as bad. Um, Cases of infection have started to pop up in many other countries. Uh, right now, I think countries are trying to contain it, I've heard on the news recently that there was a cruise ship looking to land in, I think, in the Philippines, and the people there, they said, we don't want this ship here because it's a cruise ship of Chinese people. We don't want them to land here. Um, and now pretty much every major airline is saying we are cutting pretty much all of the planes all of the planes to China. There are still many planes coming in and out of China, but the companies now, they're saying we're gonna suspend indefinitely any trips to China, any trips going to China, any trips coming, and you have to be crazy to buy a ticket to either transit or go to any Chinese city now. We know that most of China now, um, all the big cities, they're all on a almost complete lockdown. I've seen images from Shanghai today, and the streets were completely empty in places where that should have been packed with people. Uh, and of course, one thing that's alarming is that in the recent days we've had images coming from social media showing us about the panic in Wuhan and the panic that is happening in many other parts of China, and we've seen acts of violence and civil unrest. But looks like yesterday, we're seeing less and less of these videos or stories on social media coming from China, which suggests because the number of cases is growing. This would suggest that there is a very strong crackdown by the regime on any blogger or YouTuber in China trying to report on what's really happening. We've heard of YouTubers getting arrested at the beginning of the pandemic, and now we've heard of YouTubers and bloggers getting arrested now uh, while trying to talk about the what's really going on, and that's extremely alarming. So that's what I've seen in the recent days. Now, I'm not gonna share images right now. I will probably make a video tomorrow to show you some of the very disturbing images that I've seen on social media coming from China, and you can judge for yourself. This is an extremely catastrophic situation, and of course, like I said on the last video, they're talking about 7,500 known cases. If the regime is saying that, uh, that means there's about like at least 75,000 people infected, and I believe more than 100,000. So people really need to take that seriously, and we're likely gonna have a health impact for us even outside of China. But the economic impact is coming. Now, yesterday the stock market just decided to go up, and I think that's because people outside of China are still in denial, especially in the U.S. They believe that this is only happening in China and they're completely immune to this. But if you have a complete shutdown in the second biggest economy, uh, it's gonna have repercussions on stocks, on the stock market. Now today we've seen a drop of 1% in oil prices, which is representative of the gigantic slowdown in China. If all these people cannot go to their daily business, and economic activities, it's gonna affect the price of oil. Um, and tourism, now it's gotten to the point where tourism, not just in China, because China, forget about it. It's going to be on a lockdown for a very long time now. But all of the other countries around China, they're suffering because people are canceling their trips to Taiwan, Hong Kong, the Philippines, Thailand, and they're gonna have a very bad touristic season. So it's gonna be reflected in stocks. Um, yeah, and these countries, of course, they have. There's no there's no reason why one would think that the infection would spread in Hong Kong or Taiwan or other neighboring countries, because these countries have completely closed their borders with China, and these countries, they know China, they know the regime, they know that if the regime is on a state on an emergency like this, that it's much worse than what it really is. I mean, Taiwan, they know they know everything about China. Hong Kong, they know China. They know that there's something wrong going there in that country. So now they have closed their borders. Uh, they have acted as fast as possible. But these countries are still affected by the fact that they will lose a lot of tourism. Uh, the plane tickets. I myself, I had a plane ticket that I got at a good price, but it was Air China, and I was going to another country, but I was supposed to transit through Beijing, going to that country. Well, today I've received messages, and they said, well, now you can just basically cancel and we refund your money, because there's no way that I will want to take the plane in a month and transit through China. Uh, the air traffic now is closing down, and it's gonna be closed for like at least until they find a vaccine, because you know this is just getting worse and worse by the minute. But if you look on travel sites, Air China is still selling tickets. So I don't get it. But this is the way China is. Uh, yeah, nothing's happening, everything's fine. When the facts are, nothing's fine. This is a catastrophe for China. It's probably gonna. I would even say that the aftermath of this, that might just be what forces a regime change in China. All right, this is not something that a YouTuber in China would be allowed to say, but I'm saying it. If you remember in the 1980s, when Chernobyl happened, this is what led to the regime change in the USSR and the dissolution of the communist USSR. They were faced with a catastrophe that obviously was they could not contain, and they had to admit that their system was failing. And I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen in China once the real numbers come out, and that they can't cover it up anymore. But in the meanwhile, for us, the economic impact is gonna be very hard once the markets stop being in denial. Uh, the big tumble in the S&P that I've been predicting, it's coming. Don't worry. The markets are in denial, but everything points out to the S&P taking that big drop. Uh, Probably a drop similar to 2008. Now, I can only think that the only place where one would be in a safe place would be in gold. You're likely going to see the price of gold going up significantly in the coming weeks as the tumble in the S&P takes effect, and in the Dow, the Nasdaq. It's gonna have a very big effect on the financial markets. So it's pretty much what I wanted to say for tonight. I'm going to come back tomorrow with more information on this, and I will show you some of the images I've seen from the panic in Wuhan, the panic pretty much everywhere in China, and of course you can't expect these people to be in a complete lockdown and just sit down and wait forever, especially in Wuhan, where the people, they're being kept in a city that's infected. And most smart people are gonna say, "Look, I'm not gonna stay here and wait to catch the disease and die. I'm gonna try to leave that place." And people are already trying to leave, and we've seen acts of violence in the media. Uh, but now we're seeing less and less videos uh, posted on social media because the regime is now controlling the information. So stay tuned. I'm going to have another video tomorrow. So I'm Rob from iTech Pickers. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel. And if you like this video, put a thumbs up. And I will see you tomorrow.